Hello, welcome to the Option Series at Experimental Sound Studio. Tonight we are pleased to be joined by Brooklyn-based saxophonist, guitarist, and composer Briggan Krauss. We're going to be listening to some selections of his solo work on alto saxophone, as well as discussing his creative ideas with me. I really hope you can stay with us for the full hour. Before we begin, I just want to give a special thank you to Experimental Sound Studio for hosting the Option Quarantine series, as well as for all the other great work they've been doing. Also, with the Option concerts, I want to also mention that you can make a donation. All the money goes straight to the artist, so don't be shy, make a donation. That would be fantastic. As well, feel free to ask questions. Join the chat room during the performance tonight. And that is all I'm going to say for the intro. Without further ado, we're going to begin our first selection. This is Briggan Krauss. Thank you very much. Welcome, Briggan.
Hey,
How's it going?
very well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, really nice to have you on the series. Thank you for joining us here. Before we get into the music, which was phenomenal, I just wanted to just ask you a general question about how it's feeling right now when you walk out of your place in New York in regards to how things are opening up, if they're opening up, and if they are opening up, how that pertains to concerts. Are you seeing concerts? Are things happening in music, in live music in New York right now?
Um, I think that things seem almost kind of back to normal if it wasn't for all the masks. You know, just the way people kind of are interacting on the street there. Pretty good about keeping the social distancing, but it isn't as tense as it was. Um, there are outdoor restaurants. All the restaurants have expanded their seating out into the parking spaces in front. Um, the streets almost look like a street fair sometimes with all the tents. There's rows of tents of restaurants. So people are anxious to be over.
Yeah,
I understand that. And as far as out concerts, there are more and more outdoor concerts that I've heard are varying degrees of cool, like the way they're set up and the way that they're run, like um, when you're a musician, you show up as like, is there a bathroom for? Is there a dressing room? Is there food? Like how, like thinking about all those things, like in
right.
some places are very well taken care, well, but I've
So,
heard the opposite as well, and I've seen the opposite, and it's
yeah.
worrying. It really concerns me, but yeah. It's,
Have you done any live concerts not connected to Zoom? Have you done anything outside or anything yet?
I have not. No.
Okay, yeah, interesting. Wow. Yeah, if the world's changed, maybe permanently, but we will adapt because that's what we have to do. So let's get into the music now. I want to start just by talking to you about the art of solo practice. You have a very personal approach to the saxophone. It's really quite striking. And I wanted to ask you first, when did you get the idea to start performing solo? Because you've done a few recordings, and I imagine a fair amount of concerts solo. What struck you with the solo practice? Maybe what's different about it to you versus the collaboration?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I never used to like doing it.
Yeah,
Um, I had tried for a while. I was interested in doing live electronic music, so I would try to create kind of like electronic music that would kind of fill in the spaces
right.
between notes. I mean, that's kind of one of the you playing solo saxophone is you're just so naked if you miss having things fill up the spaces between the notes. Um, but I tried that a couple of times, and it wasn't really until um, oh gosh, I I did a week at the Stone when it was on Avenue when it was on the Lower East Side.
Mhm.
And Zorn suggested that I do one of the nights would be solo. So I did, and that was a good experience. I enjoyed it in that space, and maybe enough time had gone by. Um, and then a friend of mine who's a great saxophonist in Seattle named Skerrick challenged me to do some solo recording that he would record. So one of the times I went out there for a visit, and we did some stuff, and that was really great. The thing about solo playing is that, for me anyway, is just to forget that you're playing a saxophone, and to forget that um, in a you're no you're on your own. So a
Yes.
lot of times you hear a solo saxophone player, and you can tell that in their head they're still hearing a rhythm section. You're just not privy to it, but in their mind, they're playing as though that stuff is going on. And I think that the challenge is to really embrace being absolutely responsible for all of the sound that's happening, and starting from just first principles of like, well, what kinds of noise can I make with this instrument, and how do I use that compositionally to express an idea or a feeling? So that's really what it is. Yeah.
Did you find that it was challenging at first to let there be silence during a solo performance? Or is that something that wasn't too hard for you? Because speaking personally, I was terrified in any solo context that I had to make sure all the space is full all the time. But there's too much tension with the silence, which is actually what's beautiful, I think, about music is the silence, is the tension. But I think in a solo context, it can be tricky to let that happen, actually.
I agree, absolutely. Yeah. And I can't tell you how many times I wish there was a cymbal with a riveted cymbal that was just ringing right now. There was just like, fill up that space, I think that the room that you're playing in has a lot to do. If you're in a really dry place, like in a recording studio, it's really tough. But if you're in a space that gives you that gives you some sound back, then there's a bit of you hit a room and you feel it, and something hangs in the air. That can make it easier.
I heard a story, and I'm blanking on the musician, but what I heard was to practice solo, they had to have like a vacuum cleaner turned on in the house, and it made them feel more comfortable while they were playing, to let them balance, because there wasn't, when you're stopped, there's still that constant sound, which is an interesting way to kind of maybe work on solo. But when you get to the concert, I mean, unless you're doing some kind of conceptual art piece, you're probably not going to have a vacuum cleaner next to you. But it is really an interesting approach, I think. But man, a very challenging concept, I find, to leave space.
Yeah.
I do want to get into your recordings, but before that, I would love to talk a little bit about maybe your influences, and maybe let's just stick to alto saxophone.
Mm-hmm.
Your influences on the horn. Who are some of the people that got set you on your path, so to speak?
Actually, mostly tenor players. I think if we're talking about saxophone influences.
Oh, okay.
And certainly. We were talking before the show, certainly Arthur Blythe was a huge influence. And outside of of course, Ornette and Charlie Parker and John Coltrane. But Albert Ayler, who is, I think, one of the most underrated, underappreciated technical saxophonists that ever played. Just unbelievable. And also, I have to say electric guitar, because growing up in the 70s and 80s, just that sound was, even though I grew up in a jazz household. My father was an incredible jazz fan and a saxophonist, and there was always jazz music in the house. But through my friends and just through being a kid, I heard all this other music that I loved as much, and that sound. The overdriven amplifier, the distorted guitar is definitely part of the thing that informed saxophone for me.
You grew up from Lake Oswego, Oregon, is that correct?
Well, I was a kid in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and my family moved to Eugene, Oregon when I was in junior high school, and I went to high school in Lake Oswego, Oregon, which is a suburb of Portland. And then after that, I went to college in Seattle, and I lived in Seattle for 6 years, from like 88 to 94. And then I've been in New York since 1994.
Okay. What got you to New York? Was there some kind of experience, some musician, a connection? What influenced you to make the move out east?
Well, I always knew, interested in being a jazz musician, that New York was where you went. I was also really fortunate in a number of ways that I was kind of there were a large number of musicians in Seattle that I was kind of a younger member of a number of people from Seattle who wound up in New York. Jim Black, Chris Speed, Brad Shepik, Andrew D'Angelo, Kung Fu, that people that I knew and would come to know who had already moved to New York. Maybe some of them had gone through East Coast schools like Berkeley or NEC. So when I did move here, I kind of already had a kind of a number of people I already knew. And then I was already playing with Wayne Horvitz in Seattle before I moved to New York. And we played some gigs at like the Knitting Factory on Houston when I was still in Seattle, but we go on tour. So it was kind of through Wayne and Frizzell, who I met when I was in college still, that I kind of met other people in the New York kind of downtown scene. So I was that was absolutely where I wanted to go. Yeah.
That's an amazing amount of talent, just the names that you just listed off that came out of Seattle. It's kind of incredible.
Oh yeah. Still is. There's so many amazing musicians there, and a lot of places to play creative music there as well. It's a really great place.
We got to get back to the live concerts. I'll do everything I can to get that vaccine taken care of. So
okay. I got the bleach you sent. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do.
We'll talk about that after the interview. Maybe I'll ask one more question, and then I would love to get back to some of the performance. My last question I want to ask before we get back to the music is, when you landed in New York in the 90s, where were the places? Where were you playing? Was Knitting Factory was a thing? Was Tonic around yet at that point?
No, the first year I was in New York, the Knitting Factory was on Houston Street, the original location. And then after about a year and a half or so, I think it was that it moved to Leonard Street. And until Tonic arrived, 4 or 5 years after that, kind of Knitting Factory was the main place. I played there a lot. There was in the place on Leonard, there was a bar that they would have the same band every night of the week for a long time. Okay. So Sex Mob started there. I was in a band called Easy Pour Spout, which and another band was a Sun Ra band, cover band called Myth Science. And there was a time when I played there 3 nights a week for like a few years. It was really, really amazing. So yeah, the Knitting Factory is kind of home until Tonic arrived, and then
Great. Well,
in case people are wondering, maybe I should explain that I recorded these pieces yesterday afternoon in my living room here, just in case anybody's wondering, because I have neighbors with small children, so we were able to.
You're wearing the same hat in the videos as you are in the interview, so it can be confusing to the people watching.
The same hat and the same
painting. It's beautiful.
Yeah. But I just, in case anybody's wondering, the sleight of hand that's going on here.
Excellent. Well, much more to talk about, but let's get back to the music. We're going to listen to 2 selections now, 2 improvisations, and then we'll get back to the music. We'll get back to the talk after. Listening to Briggan Krauss and on the Option series at Experimental Sound Studio. Take it away, Alex, when you're ready. Briggan Krauss here on the Option series. I should say the Option Quarantine series here at Experimental Sound Studio. Thank you for those two pieces, first of all.
Of course.
Thank you for using the lower register of the alto saxophone. It's a beautiful place to be, and it's very nice to hear you utilize it in such an amazing way.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, really great. Pieces were totally different from each other, which, ironically enough, we have a question from the chat, which is very similar to a question I was going to ask you. Ken Vandermark asks, do you have a specific set of parameters for each solo piece, or do you jump in and just kind of see where the music leads you?
That's a good question. And thanks for asking, and hi to Ken. No, I don't really have a plan other than I just kind of know where I'm going to start. And that's usually what I do. The only time I've really gone in with a plan was on what became my last studio solo record called the Leaf Lounge Sessions, which is one that I really kind of made improvisations that were of one of kind of three characters. What I called studies, open, or towel. But those are still improvisations. They just had certain kind of approaches. But that's the extent of making plans going in.
Well, let's dig into that record a little bit, if you don't mind. The Art of the Saxophone, the Leaf Lounge Sessions. That's on Alusa Records, to the Australian label. What's your connection to that recording, to that label, I should say?
Alvaro Domene is a good friend of mine. He's a great guitar player. Lives in Kingston, New York, and I've known him for a long time.
Great. And so you have three kind of conceptual frameworks for the solo work.
Yes. Yeah. Kind of. It was kind of a way to, in a way, almost kind of document kind of my approach to the saxophone up to that point, which was in three ways. Or one is just playing with a towel mute, which is something I kind of invented or discovered for myself when I first moved to New York. I lived with Mike Serene and Brad Shepik, and the only place I could practice was in a closet in the basement of this brownstone that Mike had built a little drum booth in, like really little. Like one wall was here and one wall was here, and I would practice in there. But it was way too loud. The walls were like right here, and I tried using headphones, or I tried anything. And one day, out of frustration, I reached into my case was open, and I grabbed this cloth that I had, and I stuck that in the bell, and it made it quieter, but it also made it sound completely different. And it was like a light bulb, just because the more of the horn that you close, the more it affects the sound to have this like completely blocked end of the horn. And so that just started years of kind of developing a whole vocabulary and what would I say, a vocabulary and like a technique around playing with that. And most of what we'll hear tonight is also with the towel. So there's kind of that towel pieces on that record. Then there's just open pieces, which just normal untoweled saxophone, and then things that I wound up calling studies because they were pieces that were mostly just long tones, and long tones with like just really just minute shifts in like careful working with vibrato or doing multiphonics, or just kind of just very just as deliberately as I could do it. It's just kind of like making small adjustments to things and kind of experimenting with how that works, and what it's like to perform in that way, that focused.
Where can someone go to stream, download, buy that solo record?
Illuso Records. It's available on Illuso Records. I think they have a page on Bandcamp. So you can through there, and I think there's also physical CDs you can order through there as well as downloads. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, shifting gears for a second here, I was reading your list of collaborators, and it is extremely diverse. You're the only person I know that's worked with both Levon Helm and Ikoue Mori. And it should show you how diverse and amazing it is. I need to ask you what the connection to Levon Helm is and how you started working with them, and in what context was it?
Well, Levon, I think in a great way, we were talking about the virus earlier at the top was, well, for me is through Stephen Bernstein. And also I have to probably just throw in now Hal Willner,
Okay.
who we lost to the virus at the beginning of this. Yeah, it was Stephen played with Levon in the Ramble band for a long time, and then Sex Mob, we went up and did a couple of gigs on those evenings, and then I did a one night, I think it was just one night of subbing for Eric Lawrence in the horn section on that with which was a really real highlight of my life, I have to say. Yeah, so.
I can only imagine. I never got to meet Levon, but somebody who's not only that good at something, but looks like they're just having such an amazing time while performing, has to also, I'm sure of it, and please tell me if I'm wrong, have to be great people. Like, Levon must just be this really sweet, warm guy, and I really hope that's true.
I from everything I've heard, that is 100% true. I didn't really get to know him, other than that, just in that one night, he was just incredibly warm and welcoming. And I mean, I'm just the guy sitting in for Eric Lawrence, but I took a solo on, I think it was one of the first tunes of the set. And after the tune, I looked back and he took his drumsticks and he slammed them down on the drums, and he looked at me and he went, like that, just got a thumbs up like that. And I was just like, oh man, you just that was what a warm gift, just like welcoming, and it was really, a highlight of my life.
Man, so beautiful. And just going through your discography more and your list of collaborators: Lou Reed, John Zorn, Stephen Bernstein, of course, who you mentioned, Nora Jones. When you got to New York, did you show up with an attitude of, I'm just going to play as much as I can with as many people as I can? Or were you going in with the tighter focus, and then it kind of just came, you ended up working with lots of different people and lots of different genres? Or was that always kind of the goal for you, to kind of just get yourself in as many types of situations as possible?
It was way more the former. I'll play with, I just wanted to meet people and play as much as possible. And, again, Lou, everything like with Lou was through Willner again,
Yeah.
And via Bernstein through Willner, because Stephen MD'd so many of those amazing shows that Hal would do. I've been more than lucky. It's been.
Well, you're really good, and that's helpful too. Maybe one more question, and I would love to get back to some more music. You are a professor in the Performance and Interactive Media Arts and the Sonic Arts MFA program at Brooklyn College. What's going on this year with teaching? Is it going to be all online this for the full year?
It is going to be all online, at least through the first semester. I'm assuming, most people are assuming, it'll be through the whole year, which is a unique challenge for performing arts programs. There are certain allowances through the CUNY system for classes that have to meet in some way, but ours, we're still not going to do that. It's going to be an exciting, interesting and exciting challenge.
Quite an adjustment, right? My God. Would you mind just briefly talking a little bit about what you're teaching in the interactive media arts, if you don't mind? Just
of course. I'm not in the Sonic Arts program this year.
Okay.
I taught one ensemble there, I think, when I wrote that bio. But I teach a Max MSP class. I co-teach a Max MSP class where we talk about the software, Max MSP, as well as other softwares and technology. And I'll also co-teach an ensemble class, which is ensemble. It's an interdisciplinary performing arts program. So we have people from theater and dance and visual arts and music, all kinds of backgrounds and many different things coming together and doing collaborative interdisciplinary performance and in using technology. The thing that I've learned in the years doing this, I went through the program from 2010 to 2012. I've always been interested in digital video and sound art and electronic music, so it was a natural thing to check out when I was chose to go to grad school. But the one thing I find endlessly fascinating is where different artistic disciplines kind of overlap. Like when you look at what are our tools that we have to do our work, which is arts in the field of time.
Mm-hmm. Right.
What are the basic fundamental building blocks that we have? And it's my experience that the farther you drill down, the more the same they all get. You know, we're talking about compositional elements, about tension and release, and repetition, shape, density. You know, it really, and to experience like where those interact and how is just it's a wonderful thing to see and experience. So always inspiring.
Always drawn to this this piece by Earl Brown, which is inspired by Alexander Calder. And whenever I'm teaching any of my students about the connections between, let's say, visual art and sound art, I always bring them to this piece. I always make them watch this piece because the sculpture is the conductor.
Mm-hmm.
And he created a piece for percussion instruments where they have to memorize the parts and then watch the sculpture move. And they base how they go through the work completely on the movements of the sculpture. And I just think it's a beautiful concept. And it aligns perfectly with what you're talking about, with how they all kind of, the deeper you go, they all kind of come together. It's like, absolutely.
Sure.
There's so much music in visual art, and there's, it's really inspiring. I'm going to stop talking now, and I want to go to another performance. But before we go to another video, I just want to remind everyone that we are talking to and listening to Briggan Krauss, Brooklyn-based saxophonist, guitarist, and professor. Please donate to ESS if you can. All the money goes to the artists. And do join the chat room if you can, and I will try my best to get to your questions. Without further ado, let's go back to the music. This is Briggan Krauss on alto saxophone. Take it away, Alex. Back here with Briggan Krauss, option at Experimental Sound Studio. Another fantastic solo piece. You write chamber music.
I have.
And you premiered a large-scale work at Roulette back in 2002 titled Lensing. Is there a recording of this work from that premiere that you did back at Roulette?
Not a studio recording.
Oh, okay.
I am, unfortunately.
Okay.
I've done a couple of large things that I've never have been able to get the funds or opportunity to record. But
2002 was a long time ago. But if you don't mind, would you mind talking a little bit about that experience of working with the large group, and maybe just a little bit about the music connected to that project?
Oh, well, that was a long time ago. Well, that project was the first time that I'd written just large scale, like mostly through composed music. And the pieces all had kind of something to do with each other, so they were all in a series, in a suite. I did something again similar in 2007 with at the Kitchen with what was the core of it was my trio called H Alpha with Jim Black and Nicoe Mori, and then I extended the ensemble and wrote music for that. And there was also Raha Raisni as a abstract painter and filmmaker. In both of those projects, I kind of would do the same thing, is like take certain musical things and just develop them and cross-pollinate them and kind of try to create a piece that it has an arc, like that. Within each pieces are separate, but over the course of it, there's a shape. I was listening to a lot of Verez when I did the Lensing piece, so I had Kenny I had him bring all kinds of stuff, like sirens and all kinds of stuff like that. I was really interested in his music, particularly then at that point. But I'd still love to record those for sure. So, maybe someday.
Yeah, I was my next question was going to be any influences from the world composers, and you just mentioned Verez, which is pretty outstanding. But then my other question connected to this is if and when this COVID tragedy is over and we're able to get back to normal working, collaborating, playing inside, rehearsing, recording, etc., do you have any plans to record any more chamber work in the future?
No,
okay.
not right now.
Yeah,
no. I've really been the last 8 years or so. I've really just been become obsessed with the guitar. So I've just been playing guitar. That's been my main thing when I'm not actually performing on saxophone, is playing guitar. So that's everything else. That's the path I've been on now for a while. But someday I'll get back.
Very cool. Well, maybe one more question, and we'll take it out. The last video we're going to show is a little bit of a longer piece, so we'll take it out with a longer piece. But I just wanted to ask what else you had planned before the lockdown as far as musical projects? Was there anything in the works? Any tours or recordings, anything that you had planned that you had to that you did have to cancel, that you're hoping to get back to once we're able to perform again?
Well, I was supposed to go to Chicago and play at this place in this option series or something. It was like
those guys, man.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
They pay you a fee. They put you in a room. Don't do it.
Well,
yeah, that would have been great. This is great, but it would have been
someday. I can't wait. Wait.
We'll make it happen once it can happen.
And I'll definitely look forward to that for sure. Sex Mob was supposed to go to Europe in the fall, and this summer there was so like everybody, just a lot of stuff just got recordings kind of halted in the middle.
Totally.
What can I say? I mean, but could be worse.
Yeah, could be. At least we still have music in some fashion. We still have communication. They didn't have Zoom during the 1918 flu pandemic, so at least we have Zoom, right?
Yes.
For better or worse. Well, look, Briggan, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on the series. And I look forward to checking out more of your work and digging in deeper to all the wonderful projects that you've done over the years. And I really look forward to hearing you in person once we're able to do that. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And thanks for everybody who's tuning in, logged in, listening in, viewing in.
Absolutely. Thank you to the listeners. I want to give a shout out to my fellow option curators, Ken Vandermark and Andrew Klinkman. I want to give a shout out to Alex Inglisian and Ralph Loza, who are behind the scenes doing all the technical work, and a big thank you to Experimental Sound Studio for everything they're doing for music right now.
Indeed.
And this has been Briggan Krauss. Check him out. And thank you again. And this final video, Briggan Krauss solo saxophone, will take us out. And don't forget to donate, and don't forget to check out Option every Monday through the end of October. Thank you very much, everybody. Roll tape, Alex.